Mark, I am going out shopping. You want anything for yourself? Cynthia asked. No, dear, I am fine. You enjoy your day, okay? Mark said as he kissed his wife goodbye. Sure will. See you later, Cynthia said and helped herself out. Mark stood by the window and saw his wife pull out in the car. He stared for some time, making sure Cynthia was well and truly gone before he started with what he had in mind. While Mark and Cynthia both had their own separate closets, there was a trunk, kept away in the storeroom. The storeroom normally held tools that might come in handy to do some household repairs. And as such, did not hold much attention of Cynthia. Also, Mark was very diligent in keeping the room clean. Therefore, Cynthia never had a chance to suspect that the storeroom would hold something else. A trunk, full of clothes and other accessories. Not just ordinary clothes, women's clothes. Dresses, bras, panties, and so on. This was Mark's secret. Mark, the hard-working gentleman, the loving husband and the closeted crossdresser. Well, it seems today is as good as any other day. It's time to get Mary out for the day, Mark said to the empty storeroom. With some effort, Mark opened the trunk and carefully selected today's outfit. A light summer dress. It was hot outside and the dress would go perfectly well. The dress was followed by white bra and panties. Then, he took out some clip-on earrings and a blonde wig. The stuff in hand, Mark headed to the bedroom he shared with his wife, Cynthia. Dumping the clothes on the bed, Mark headed towards the shower. Mark carefully shaved his face and then his arms and legs. It took half an hour, but very carefully Mark had shaved his entire body. The shower was ready and a hot bath seemed to relax his muscles. Out of the bath, Mark stopped by the bed. He felt through the soft satin fabric of the dress. Just imagining the feeling of the soft cloth on his body made him shudder. But he had work to do, so he dried himself off. Carefully, Mark put on the padded bra and panties. The soft panties pulled up smoothly on his freshly shaven legs. Mark carefully tucked his penis between his legs and smoothed the panties. Next, Mark slid the dress on. It was soft and made up with floral pattern. Perfect for a summer day. Sitting on the dresser, Mark opened the drawers and started applying light makeup. Mark's fair complexion helped, as he did not require much in terms of makeup. Just a light foundation and some lipstick. Mark took the clip-on earrings and finally settled the wig over his short hair. And the transformation was complete. Looking at the mirror, Mark saw a woman. She had some masculine features. But she was still passable. Her breasts were on the smaller side, but Mark was never of the masculine build, so it looked as if a woman was looking out of the mirror. Mark found a pair of sandals with small heel and made his way to the living room. I am so glad you could make it, Cynthia, Sharon said. You should thank Mark for that, Sharon. He said he would take care of the chores for the day, and that I should enjoy my day, Cynthia replied. Sharon was Cynthia's closest friend. They lived in the same city, but due to individual obligations couldn't meet up regularly. Oh, really? I guess I should thank him personally then. It's been so long since we last met, Sharon replied happily. 3 months to be exact. You know how I am busy with my job and handling the house. It's really a boon when Mark tells me to make time for myself like today, Cynthia said. Well, lucky you. If John could just make time from his golfing buddies, I would also make him do the chores, Sharon said playfully. Cynthia and Sharon had a good laugh at that. So, what did you have in mind? We are in the mall after all, let's hit some of the stores. That one looks promising to me, Cynthia suggested. Sharon agreed that it was as good a start as any. And the two friends made their way to the store. 2 hours later, both ladies made way to their cars. Today's collections did not feel that good, Sharon. What did you get? Cynthia asked. Same as you. It seems that this new mall is yet to attract good stores. We should hit the old mall at the other end of the city sometime. They do have some good stores, Sharon replied. Sounds good to me. Now, I know we had planned for at least 5 hours and we have some time to kill. Would you mind coming back with me? You can meet with Mark and we could spend some quality time together, Cynthia asked. Sure. Let's go, Sharon exclaimed. Mark, when dressed up, liked to call himself Mary, his feminine alter ego. Mary had promised Cynthia that she would take care of the chores for the day. So, she got right down to that. Mary found an apron and a brush. Mary was slightly taller than Cynthia and she used her reach to good effect. Using the brush, Mary cleaned the places of the house which would be difficult for Cynthia to reach. Doing chores made Mary feel a sense of fulfillment. Not to mention, it took some pressure off of Cynthia. So, she hummed her favorite tune as she proceeded with the cleaning. The vacuum cleaner's whirring sound filled the house. So engrossed was Mary in her cleaning that she did not hear the sound of the car pull up in their garage. Neither did she hear the door open and Cynthia enter the house with Sharon. And shock. That was Mary's first reaction on looking at Cynthia. And not just Cynthia, but Sharon as well. Mark, what the hell? Why are you in those clothes? What's going on? Cynthia's voice trembled as she asked. Mark turned the vacuum cleaner off and turned to face both women. Both had shocked look on their faces. Mark was equally frozen. He couldn't believe this was happening. I can try to explain, Cynthia, Mark stammered. Your husband is a crossdresser, Cynthia, Sharon said. Mark winced at the words. But he could see the shock turn to anger on Cynthia's face. Mark could feel that he was on the tip of a cliff and a slight push and he would fall to his death. He could see that Cynthia was crying. She didn't understand. She started screaming at him. Obscenities, hurtful words, and the works. It meant nothing to him. He could feel he had lost her. Probably forever. Cynthia, stop screaming. Mark, go to your room and please change. Okay? Come down when you are ready. Take your time, Sharon said. Mark stared in disbelief as Sharon led Cynthia to the kitchen. He had expected ridicule or scorn from Sharon, but her words pulled him out of the trance and he quickly raced to their bedroom to change. A quick face wash and some scrubbing removed the makeup. He took off the wig and earrings. Mark put on his normal clothes. He tossed the female clothes in the trunk and made his way to the kitchen. Sharon was quietly talking to Cynthia. Cynthia looked up when Mark entered. Mark could see the Cynthia looking at him as if she had never seen him before. Cynthia and Mark had been together for 2 years. In that time, they had bonded well. Mark, however, had not disclosed his secret for fear of losing Cynthia. I am sorry. I should have told you from before. Mark tried to say, but was interrupted. I don't want to hear anything. You lied to me. You kept this from me. How could you? Cynthia cried. I am sorry, Mark said. There was nothing else to be said. Mark, why don't you go for a walk? Let's cool down, right? Sharon suggested. Mark could only nod. He collected his clothes and left. He stood on the porch for a good 10 minutes before he left for a nearby park. His mind was numb. Fear for his marriage, the thought of losing Cynthia was too much to bear. So he sat in the park, not looking at anything in particular, just staring, thinking about the good times. What am I going to do? Cynthia cried as she heard Mark leave. Well, we are having some tea. And then we will talk. Okay? Sharon said. Cynthia could only nod. Her mind was filled with thoughts. Thoughts of betrayal. Thoughts of her husband as a woman. Thoughts of how this would change their life. While Cynthia was fuming, Sharon quickly got some tea and then sat with Cynthia. So, what are you gonna do? Sharon asked. What's there to do? I don't know. It feels like betrayal to me, Cynthia said. Is it? If you had known this before your marriage or while you two were dating, would you have gone ahead and married Mark? Sharon asked. I don't know. Maybe not, Cynthia said, unsure. Exactly why Mark felt he had to keep it a secret from you, Sharon said. But he lied to me, Cynthia said weakly. Put his cross-dressing aside for a moment. What do you think of him as a person? Has he ever done anything bad to you? Has he ever been irresponsible? If he hasn't, then aren't you treating him a bit harshly? Sharon asked. Cynthia had no answer to that. When she thought deeply, it was more shock than anything else. Also, she had seen his face in those initial moments. It was a face of resignation. A face of someone who lost something precious. Well, now that you say so, I guess he has been a good husband and a good partner, Cynthia admitted. I am not saying that you should accept him. But, rather than looking at him as something weird, try to understand his side of things? Give it a try? It doesn't have to be something public. I did not know this before today. He has kept the secret well, Sharon said. A chance? Cynthia asked the question more to herself than Sharon. That is all. A chance, Sharon replied. I will think about it, Cynthia said. After that, neither Sharon or Cynthia had much to say. They wrapped up their tea and Cynthia gave Sharon a lift to the mall, so she could collect her car. Thanks, Sharon. For everything, Cynthia said sincerely. What are friends for, honey? Sharon replied. That night, when Mark returned home, he saw Cynthia had prepared dinner. She was sitting at the table, waiting for him. Neither of them said much to each other. But the mood of the evening was set and they both went back to their life as if the afternoon had not happened. Life went on. Mark did not cross-dress thereafter. But, Cynthia observed. She saw her husband, day in and day out, and her heart broke. For Mark was a shadow of himself. The lively man, who could make her laugh and had the brightest smile in the world, had stopped smiling. It went on for 4 months. Mark could feel the strain on their relationship. He could feel the specter of the past. He was helpless though. It was his cross-dressing or his wife and marriage. He chose the latter, but the unhappiness lingered. The day had started out as normal. Cynthia had prepared breakfast. She was almost ready to leave for her job. Mark, who left a little later, sat on the breakfast table. He expected Cynthia to kiss him goodbye and leave, but Cynthia made no move to leave the table. The past few days have been different, Cynthia said. How so? Mark asked, unsure of where Cynthia was going with this. I am missing something in my life. Something that used to be there, Cynthia said. And what is that? Mark asked, his attention now completely on Cynthia. I would like to meet someone. I saw her only once. But, after that fateful day, she has not been seen. And with her my husband smile, his joy has also disappeared, Cynthia said, looking straight in Mark's eyes. Mark looked at her blankly for a few moments. You really want to meet her? Mark asked, his heart beating wildly in his chest. I would like to. Last time I met, I did not even catch her name. After all, she is a side of you that makes you who you are. I am not saying I accept her. But, I would like to meet her and decide for myself, Cynthia said, placing her palm on Mark's hand. Mark looked down. His voice trembled as he replied. Her name is Mary. And she would like to meet you as well. Mark's words seemed to stop the world for a second. He hesitantly looked into his wife's eyes. There was hope there. Well, then I would like to meet her tonight, if that wouldn't be too hard for her? Cynthia asked, with a hint of smile. She will be here, Mark whispered. Cynthia kissed him goodbye then. But, Mark sat there. Stunned. Apprehensive. Anxious. excited. The feeling was indescribable. And so, Mary officially met Cynthia for the first time that night. Cynthia stood on the porch of their house. She had been there for the last 5 minutes, debating, filled with dread and bit of anticipation. It had been a whim, an impulse, asking to meet Mary, her husband's female alter ego. Cynthia had felt that something had to be done. She loved Mark and couldn't see him just exist day in day out. The smile was missing, so was the joy. So she decided to meet this woman who had come between her and Mark, to decide, once and for all, how to proceed. But not before giving Mark a chance. That was all this night was about. So Cynthia knocked and waited. The door opened and Cynthia's breath stuck in her throat. Standing in front of her, with a dazzling smile on her face, was Mary, dressed in a beige skirt and creamy blouse, her ears adorned with earrings. And the smile, oh the smile. "Welcome home, Cynthia." "Myself Mary, pleased to meet you," Mary greeted her. And the spell subsided. Cynthia realized she was smiling, and who could not? Cynthia could see traces of Mark on the woman, but the woman was also her own entity. Mary collected Cynthia's coat and gently ushered her into the dining room. All the while, Mary talked about her day and asked Cynthia about hers. Cynthia could only marvel to see how natural Mary was. The walk, the way she dressed, everything was confident. "I have prepared all your favorite dishes, Cynthia. Shall we commence?" Mary asked, as she pulled out the seat for Cynthia. Cynthia could only nod, and so they started the dinner. Wine was had and good food. That seemed to break some of the ice. "So, how did you come into being, Mary?" Cynthia asked, her first serious question of the evening. "Since the teens. Mark always had the idea of Mary. I am as much a part of him as he is a part of me. But I only started coming out after college. When Mark had the independence and means to get the things that would make me come out," Mary said, gesturing her earrings and dress. "And why did he not disclose you to me?" Cynthia asked. "Because he was afraid. Afraid that you would reject him. Afraid that you wouldn't accept me," Mary whispered. And Cynthia felt a hole in her heart start to fill. It was just a little bit, but she felt hope. "Well, I am glad that I was able to meet you, Mary. For the past 4 months, Mark was missing something. And I now know what it was. I am not saying that this will mend everything. But I would like this to be a start," Cynthia said. Mary sighed in relief. "I can accept that," Mary said. And the two women chatted into the night. They chatted about mundane things. About life. About interests, and then they slept. Together, in each other's arms. There was hope for them after all.